Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Hey guys, I'm Shelby, host of Addicted to Crime podcast. Join us for deep, chilling dives into the evil nature of criminals, and let's take a closer look at their early life and background to see how they got to the day of the crime. This podcast was created in hopes you pay closer attention to your surroundings and hopefully stay safe. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, or else on the website www.addictedtocrime.org. Happy listening, thanks for your time, and stay safe.
Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder
and lists.
And we're brought to you by the Podmoth Podcasting Network. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Check out all the other podcasts. We got some new ones on there. You'll hear their ads. Thanks everybody who's been listening. Our listens have jumped up again, which is fucking amazing.
Looking good.
Yeah, watching the growth of our podcast is really awesome. And it shoots up. We get like tons more listens, and then it kind of settles just a little bit, but higher than where it was before.
Yeah.
And I fucking love it. It's like the most exciting, amazing thing. So thank you, everybody supporting us.
Guys.
Thanks for telling your friends. You guys fucking rule.
Yeah.
We were kind of out of it on the last episode, which we recorded like literally right now, but an hour earlier, so we were still asleep. So we didn't say this, but if you'd like to join us on Patreon, which I heard there might be a sign-up issue. If there is, please let us know so we can remedy that. I've already reached out to Patreon, but if it is happening with more people, we want to know. But if you can sign in, fantastic, join us. It's patreon.com/twistedlisters. If you'd like to join us on TikTok, which we're not really using right now because it seems like we're shadow banned, but if you want to follow us, you can. We're just at Twisted Listers. If you'd like to join us on Instagram, which seems to be all the rage lately, you can do that at
Twisted Listers PCast.
If you would like to check out our website, you can do that at
twistedlisterspod@gmail.com.
That's the email.
Oh my God. twistedlisterspod.com.
And you already got our email. So we're all good. There's all our,
Still early. You can tell it's still the morning. My brain's not right.
I've had way more coffee than normal, so I'm fast talking and like maybe really on it, but I'm getting to the point of coffee where it's going to cause mental confusion soon. So
perfect.
That'll be fun. Okay. So this is, do we call it like cursed hotels or just like murder hotels? Hotels.
I would say murder hotels or cursed murder hotels. They feel like they're all cursed. I would say that.
Yeah. If there's multiple murders, then yeah.
Yeah, but it's not just murder. Like curses imply there's more going on. Like
yes,
it is marked for bad shit to always happen.
Yes,
there.
Agreed. Okay. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. This is part 2, and I went first last time. So Diva, take it away.
And I saved this one for second because I have declared this hotel the Cecil Hotel of New York.
Oh, lovely. Good.
It feels like a very parallel story in a lot of ways.
Nice.
It is very similar.
Okay, let's do it.
So this is the Hotel Carter in New York City. There's some strong New York options, so I'm glad I'm representing. Cindy's covering LA this week.
Yes, I am.
So 9 people at least have died at this hotel.
Whoa.
Including at least 4 murders and 4 suicides, some of which are gnarly. And it just has the Hotel Carter is very well known, as I'll talk about, for being, particularly in the last half of its history, very dirty. It is like famous for how filthy it is.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. So maybe like stop and go Google some pictures so you can get a sense of the flavor, the taste here.
It's a Pazuzu hotel.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. He would have been like, this is even too clean for me. He wouldn't have liked it. Needs some more poop and trash, So Hotel Carter was opened as the Dixie Hotel at first in 1930. So super old. It's 24 stories high and initially had 1,000 rooms. It was later downgraded to 700. Maybe those 300 were too haunted.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay.
No, I just made that up. I don't know.
No. I'm just, when you call it the Cecil, like yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. It's located on West 43rd in the Theater District in Manhattan, so right in the center of everything. It is not that far from Times Square. And to build the hotel, I think this is the source of the curse, but it's also like how everything was constructed then. To build the hotel, they raised several tenements, which if you don't know what those are where poor people live.
Yeah, it's like how Dodger Stadium was built, except those were more houses, but they tried to make it seem like tenements so they could like justify kicking people out. But anyway.
Yeah. So they just displaced a fuck ton of poor people and burned down their houses to build this hotel. Yeah. By 1932, there had already been at least 3 suicides.
Wow.
So,
in 2 years.
Yeah. With people jumping from their rooms onto like roofs of other buildings. One man had just been sentenced to 5 to 10 years for embezzlement and killed himself.
Oh, wow.
So people kind of gravitate here when they're on like really hard times, I feel like, or they just went through something really bad in their darkest places.
Yeah.
In 1941, this is like an accidental death, but it's gnarly. A man fell asleep smoking and lit his shirt on fire and
burned himself.
Burned to death.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's horrific.
So the hotel, other than all the things I just described, as like the image of it has like a more clean early history, despite all the suicides and accidental deaths that continue, as it was like less of a sleaze flop house, you know?
Right. Okay.
It hosted a train terminal for a long time. Then it hosted a theater and several restaurants where magicians hung out. It was known for its magician scene.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Which just side note, I want to say I can't fucking stand magicians. I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry. Like they scare me. I don't like them.
They're always really like cheesy, immature dudes that I'm like, you would be an incel if there wasn't like a weird magician groupie scene.
And I'm not scared by the magic because even though I believe in everything, I know that what they're doing is fake.
Right.
But like it's not the magic that scares me, it's the dudes. Their vibes are weird. And I don't want to be forced to like watch something like and like, oh wow, like it's just like I really hate it.
So you've never been to the Magic Castle?
I don't want to go because I went.
It was
I hate
fun.
watching magic. I hate it.
There's so much. I mean, really, that's all you're doing there. But you can also eat. You can drink. It's kind of. It was an experience. I was really glad to go. But anyway,
I know. I'm scared of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the 1970s, just like the whole neighborhood it's in, the hotel started going downhill. It was always kind of a budget hotel. Like it was never like luxury, like the Barclay was started out as. Like we talked about last episode. So it's always budget, but it starts getting hit with health and safety violation infractions and starts getting gross as far as like the actual hotel. And again, if you know what the history of downtown Manhattan in the 70s, it is not the glitzy tourist area as we know it today. It is very skeezy.
Yeah. It's fucking gnarly.
Yeah. Very, very gross. Crime ridden. There's lots of poverty. And again, like this is not like to say poor people are just gross. It's also like a total lack of like the city giving a shit that's happening.
Yeah. It's intentional.
Yeah. And around this time, Tran Din Trong, a ship owner and business guy, buys the hotel. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that he's not the best at his job. Hotel ownership.
Yeah.
In 1980, a guy who had just killed a New York City cop was arrested at the hotel after getting in a fight. Just random. The hotel continues to get citations from the city for health and safety violations just throughout. Just pepper that in constantly.
Yeah, just constant backdrop.
Through the 70s and 80s. In 1983, around 183 families lived there, and it was like kind of like a low-cost residence, more so than a hotel.
Okay.
And kind of at various times was both like a low-cost residence and also kind of a homeless shelter because the city would pay the hotel like a certain fee to house homeless people.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So the same year, 1983, I was just talking about a 19-year-old young man, Jack Correa, beat his 25-day-old baby to death.
Oh, fuck. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Which, like, we talked about this in another episode. It's like, how do you do that? Like, how...
Right.
So they also had 2 other young children, I believe ages 1 and 3, living with them at the hotel. So you can just imagine this little family in a room, like, and he does this. It's horrible.
That's fucked. That's so fucked.
He was charged with murder and child abuse. It's just, very insane.
Yeah.
In 1987, a woman was thrown out of the window from one of the top floors following an argument that was heard. So all we know about this is argument, and the person
And
throws
she
her
goes flying.
out.
Yeah, that's fucked up too.
In 1988, the city took all the homeless people out of the hotel, and I wrote in parentheses, to where?
Yeah, what the fuck?
I never found their destination because, as so often our governments do, they just sort of shuffle them around.
Right.
As they love to do. So the
fucked.
rich people don't have to look at them, right?
Right.
They said they had to take them out because of the site of the deteriorating, smelly, all around gross condition of the building. And the way I read about this, it kind of pissed me off because it's like, okay, City of New York / building manager, what if you cleaned it? Like, what if you what if you paid people to do cleaning?
Like manage and keep upkeep.
Yeah.
Fucking
Instead,
place.
they just sort of make it sound like, wow, these poor people, they're just naturally filthy. And it's like, no, you could clean it. You could clean your building.
It's really easy to do that. Like, that's not even like a hard thing that like people don't. That's like a normal thing everybody does. Like, that just, you're just supposed to do that. That's just part of it.
Anyway, it's just annoying because it's blaming the people and not the management, and it's like really annoying. And obviously this manager is putting in like the bare minimum to $0 into the upkeep of this institution.
Right.
Like zero to like the tiniest amount of dollars.
Yeah.
So it continued as a very, very low budget hotel, and a hostel also operated on the top 2 floors starting in, or on, I don't know if it's top, not sure if it's the top floors, but on 2 floors starting in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hostels are a whole other thing.
Yeah. I mean, in Europe, I stayed in them and they were fine, but I don't think I'd do an American hostel.
No, that's true. I feel like they're scarier.
They are.
If where you stay in like the multiple bunk beds in the room.
Right.
I don't know. I'm too scared of hostels because of the movie Hostel. So I think that's a documentary about hostels. Like, I don't fucking trust them, dude.
The ones that I stayed in were like in like London, and they were fine.
Yeah.
They were actually pretty cool. Like, we met some people from like, I can't remember where, like a tiny little country over there. And like,
see, I do not want to meet strangers when I travel. Like, I do not want to talk to them. I do not want to small talk with random strangers. Like, that's not what I'm interested in doing.
Yeah, I mean, we were just poor and we wanted to go to Europe, so we made it work. But I understand.
No, I don't want to shame people who travel on a budget because I always do. But
right.
It's not for me. Anyway, in 1999, a hotel clerk got into a fight with their coworker, so another hotel clerk, and one of them also lived at the hotel. And hotel clerk number 2 here beat and stabbed their coworker to death.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Yeah. 2007, and this is the case I'm going to talk the most about because it's fucking crazy. The body of 33-year-old Christine Yatreff, a sex worker, was found wrapped in garbage bags under a hotel bed.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So we don't know how long she was there. Also, why aren't they cleaning under the bed? I mean, I guess we already established this.
So a hotel maid, so they exist at this time.
Okay, that's good. That's something.
There's a hotel maid found the body. She at some point. Mm-hmm. Christine had actually been a design student, and she had fortunately had run into hard times, especially around drug addiction, and had started working as a sex worker.
Yeah.
Clarence Dean, I think he's like 40 something,
Mm-hmm.
is identified as having checked into the room where she was found. Clarence had only come to New York City a few weeks prior because he had been fleeing various places for doing various crimes. Let's listen to this travel itinerary. So he first fled Alabama after being charged with not properly registering as a sex offender for sexually abusing a child in Florida.
Oh, God. Okay.
Then he fled from there to Tennessee, where he stole a woman's money and car.
Okay.
And then fled to New York City from there. So that's what he's been up to.
Jesus.
Clarence claims that when he was, having some kind of consensual encounter with Christine, the man who sex trafficked Christine surprise attacked him and jumped into the room and tried to rob him and attack him together with Christine. Like, she was in on it.
Oh, I'm sure.
He only punched and choked her in self-defense, but he didn't kill her at all.
And the other guy just disappeared into thin air? Like, what exactly happened there?
So that's his dumbass story.
That's a really bad one.
Exceptionally dumb. Yes,
so
exceptionally
bad.
dumb. So the prosecution alleges that he, in fact, started as a client, but then he attacked her, obviously.
Yep.
And nothing about her injuries suggests self-defense because he actually broke a dozen of her ribs.
Oh, come on.
She had a fractured skull and a fractured breastbone, so she was like savagely beaten.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's not self-defense. The trial was stalled a long time because the defense was contesting the validity of the prosecution's bite mark evidence, because I guess there was a bite mark matching him on her. But finally, in 2016, he was finally tried and convicted.
9 years?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
And what's funny, too, is that, like, I read some in depth into this, and like they took so long figuring out, like, or trying to fight the bite mark evidence, that the prosecution gains more evidence because it allowed them all this extra time to investigate.
Love it.
And so they were like, at the end, they were like, we don't fucking need your bite mark. Fine. Like,
that's awesome.
You know, we'll convict you anyway, which he was. He was later sentenced to 25 years to life. So that's the end of Clarence there. So that's the main rank of murders and crimes there. Still a decent amount.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
In 2011, I just want to note that TripAdvisor ranked the hotel as number 4 in their list of the dirtiest hotels in the world.
Oh, wow.
And there's tons and tons and tons of reviews of people saying it was filled with cockroaches and bed bugs. And by the way, I've experienced bed bugs in an old place I used to live, and it was the worst experience of my entire life. Like,
yeah.
Bed bug bites are, and I get bit by every bug, but bed bug bites are the worst kind of bite, and they like hurt. They like hurt in a different way.
Yeah. I had a friend that was at a Howard Johnson and got bit up. And I think she got like money out of it. Yeah, it's disgusting though.
Oh, good to know that you can do that.
Yeah, you can like sue or like, you know.
Yeah. I've never gotten it from a hotel, thankfully, but
yeah.
I used to live. I want to say this just as a total aside, that I used to live in a like former old Hollywood hotel, or like apartment complex rather, that was really fucking haunted and also full of bed bugs.
So wait, there had bed bugs? Did you guys get rid of them?
Yeah, we just got it like fumigated.
Oh, okay.
So,
I mean, that you can kill them, but it's like a bummer. You got to get
it sucked.
Yeah, that's rough. Holy
we had
shit!
to take our cats out of the apartment for a night. Yeah.
Ugh, the worst.
Oh, anyway, so stay away. Look at all the hotel reviews, by the way. And if anyone mentions bed bugs, do not fucking stay there. Like,
yeah, it's not worth it.
Don't risk it.
If it gets in your clothes and shit,
you can take it home.
Take it home. Yep.
Oof. Anyway, back in 2009, also USA Today gave the Hotel Carter the title of the dirtiest hotel in the country.
In the country?
Yes.
That's insane.
In 2013, the hotel came under new ownership, GF Management, who renovated it and put it up for sale. At some point, it's reopened, and even though it's supposed to have been renovated, I don't know. It's unclear if it's still open. Some sites say it looked like it is, and other places like Yelp say it's closed. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's closed right now.
Okay, all right.
But 2014 photos from like I think around the time of the renovation, or I'm not sure if it's before or after, but they show one of the crappiest hotels I've ever seen. So maybe these photos are pre-renovation,
right?
But I don't know what happened to. I can't find any reviews from like recent times.
Yeah.
But I found 2014 photos that show like the shittiest hotel I've ever seen photos of. Like, and I cannot express to you how gross it is, because it's like, instead of, my favorite thing in hotels is that fluffy comforter. Like, I love it so much.
Yeah.
You know? And instead of a comforter, this hotel has like one of those 70s like horse blankets.
Oh, God, I knew you were going to say that too. That's fucking terrible. That's terrible.
It doesn't have horses on it, but I just wanted to get you a sense of the texture. That's the type of blanket, right?
Right.
Like that weird, like scratchy.
They're like flat and like,
yeah,
they're just like it's a depressing blanket.
The texture is horrible. Like the feeling.
Oh.
Yeah. And the decor is from the 70s. Like, again, I hope that's pre-renovation, but I don't know what's come of the renovated Hotel Carter. But also there was like, I think from 2013-ish, there was a story about people living in it as like a slum, essentially, or like a low. I mean, I don't know if you've seen in Hong Kong the coffin homes of oh yeah, this is like capitalism on steroids is what we're all headed to. But it's basically in Hong Kong, and I think in several places throughout the world, you can rent essentially a wire cage coffin. It would still rent for quite a lot because it's Hong Kong, and it's the most expensive housing market in the world. I'll send the stories on this to you later. And it's like they're full of bed bugs. It's like the most terrifying, like living in squalor things. And it's like the end of capitalism. Anyway, but like, so the Hotel Carter looks kind of like this, essentially. It's kind of like people living in these little tiny hotel room pods in squalor, just so they can not be on the streets. And there's a really horrific story you can read about the Hotel Carter, just in terms of living conditions, let alone ghosts and murders. So,
I mean, that is where we're headed, which is fucking terrifying. And also, like, it's not going to change. Like, if Hong Kong is already there, like, the US is not going to slow down.
Oh, no, yeah. We're right behind.
We're so
especially in LA, we're right behind. And there's places in downtown LA like that too, like crappy little tiny pods.
Yeah, the Hotel Roslyn, they you can rent like, or you could, it's kind of like the same thing I was talking about at Barclay, where you're renting a room that's like a 10 by 10 room with a tiny little bed, and it's like $750. Roslyn, it's like 400 square feet, and like you get your own bathroom, and it's $700 a month or whatever. And that's our version. We're already doing it.
Yeah, it's like, and then you hear low cost housing, like it sounds good, like yay, we want that. But also, if it's like in squalor and a tiny, like barely livable thing where you can't even like put your arms out on either side, like you can't, it's so tiny. It's like, that's not like fair, humane.
No, I mean, when I was 18, you could get a 1-bedroom apartment that was like a full 1-bedroom for like $750. And that's what it fucking should be. Like, what the fuck? Like,
it has to be a humane living condition for it to count.
I can't. I hate everything. Anyway, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Also, there was a hotel when I was recently trying to book hotels in Amsterdam. There was one that was like a pod hotel, and it was like cheap. So I looked at it, but it was like coffin-y, you know? And it was nice. It wasn't dirty or anything, but I was like, I cannot. Like, I will claustrophobic freak out, and it reminds me of the coffin homes.
Guys, the spookiest thing in our entire world is capitalism, just in case you were wondering.
It really is. And rising like rents and shit.
Yeah, it's gotta stop.
Scary.
People are gonna, hopefully we riot. I don't know. I'm ready. So anyway. All right.
Very spooky.
Well, you're very right. That is very similar to the Cecil Hotel, which I'm gonna do now at Diva's request.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I'm not gonna lie, when you were like, I really want you to do it, I was like, okay. And in my mind, I was like, oh, okay. But then I started researching it, and it's actually pretty interesting. So I'm really happy that we did this, because everybody talks about Elisa Lam.
Yeah.
And then they kind of talk about other things as an aside. So I'm going to start and go chronologically, kind of like I did with Barclay. It's going to be a similar feel. But for people who are like really into the Cecil Hotel, but don't want to watch that bullshit Netflix thing on it, which was terrible, here you go.
It really was.
Yeah, it's crap. So, the Cecil Hotel was built in 1927 by hotelier William Banks Hanner. So, your hotel, the Carter, was in 1930. This was 3 years prior. It cost $1 million in 1927 money, which is $17 million today.
Oof.
But for his $17 million, he got an all marble lobby, stained glass windows, beautiful, ornate, over the top, everything. Also Beaux-Arts style, so similar to the Barclay. And the nice thing about marble is it lasts, so it's still there. Also, like the Carter, the Cecil had 700 rooms.
Oh.
Yes, but unlike the Barclay, which it was similar in style, definitely cost more, literally 2 blocks away, the Cecil had no heyday at all, because the depression hit in 1930.
Didn't get a chance to have a heyday.
Did not get a chance. The place turned into a meeting place for the lost and the unwanted people from all around the world who converged in downtown Los Angeles. So over the years in the Cecil Hotel, there have been at least 16 murders, deaths, or supernatural happenings, including the most unconventional murder-suicide I've ever heard about. So let's get into it, right?
Okay.
In the 1920s and 30s, there were at least 6 suicides, including a man from the army and a Marine. One of these 2 men slit his own throat with a razor, which is fucking hardcore.
Oof.
The other jumped to his death and was found on the skylight of a nearby building, which would be the building in between. So just so you guys know, I lived 2 buildings over from the Cecil in the Pacific Electric Lofts. So I used to live down there in like 2008, 2009. And I would go into the Cecil. And this was before I knew anything about it. That place is creepy as fuck. And I'll talk more about my experiences once I get through this. But A few other residents ingested rat poison, which is super gnarly. I think if we think back to the teacup poisoner that I did, like the way that kills people is fucking gross.
Yeah.
Other people shot themselves. One woman either jumped or fell from her room's window and was entangled in phone wires on the way down. They broke
Ooh.
her fall enough for her to make it to the hospital before she died. But so pretty fucking gnarly what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
In September 1944, Dorothy Jean Purcell, who was staying in the hotel with her boyfriend at the time, woke up with a pain in her stomach. She went to the bathroom to see if she could work it out and ended up giving birth to a baby boy.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah, she later claimed to have no idea she was pregnant, and her boyfriend certainly had no idea either. After giving birth, again, according to her, she thought her baby was dead. So she threw it out the window where it landed on the roof of the building next door and died.
Why would you do
Because
that?
it wasn't dead when she gave birth.
Yeah, but why would you do that even if it was dead? Why would
Right.
you do that?
Right? I know.
Oh my god.
She ended up going to trial for murder, but she was found not guilty by reason of insanity, which I think is probably fair.
Yeah.
She did end up in a mental hospital where I think
Okay.
she lived out her days. Also, she was only 19 and her boyfriend was 38, so she may have been a little terrified of him finding out.
Yeah.
Sounds like it could have been like an abusive situation.
Yeah, for sure.
10 years later in 1954, 55-year-old Helen Gurney jumped to her death, landing on the hotel's marquee, which is
Oof.
notable, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hotel, the Cecil Hotel's got a big marquee kind of going down the side and then another one across. And she landed on it and she died. So pretty gnarly.
Oof.
Weirdly, a lot of these people seemingly came to town to kill themselves. And a lot of them checked into the hotel using fake names.
Yeah.
So it was like a weird trend. On October 12th, 1962, which incidentally is my dad's 12th birthday,
Oh. Nice.
27-year-old Pauline Otten jumped to her death after having an argument in the hotel room with her estranged husband. Just as she jumped, this is the one I was talking about, 65-year-old George Giannini was walking by on the sidewalk below, and she landed on him, killing them both instantly.
What the fuck? I feel like
Yeah.
that's like a cartoon thing. Like that never. That's a thing you would never think has ever
But actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Isn't that fucking crazy? So this is the
That's
super
insane.
weird murder-suicide, because technically she's a murderer. She killed that guy. Whether or not it was an accident, she had disregard. You know, she jumped out of the building. At
Yeah.
first, the police actually were like, we think these two jumped to their death together, because they didn't have any context. But as they started to figure it out, they were like, oh, George was landed on because his shoes were still on.
Yeah, you can tell that they didn't jump together. Yeah.
Yeah. They were like, oh, his shoes would have flown off. So,
Yeah.
you know. So the next murder is a really tragic one and unsolved to this day.
Ooh.
In 1958, Goldie Osgood, later nicknamed Pigeon Goldie, moved into the Cecil Hotel. So this place, the hotel, much like Barclay, the Barclay was a place that like rich people lived indefinitely. The Cecil was a place that poor people lived indefinitely. So there
Yeah.
are rentable rooms kind of like the Carter, but there were also people living there long term.
Yeah.
Just like the Carter, just like the
Yes.
Barclay.
Very similar.
So she was 59 at the time. She'd worked as a telephone operator, like plugging in calls, you know, because back then that's how you'd call the operator. They'd patch you through to wherever you were calling. And I think she still did that at the time. It's unknown why she moved in, not a lot of background, but she was a regular in the downtown scene. She'd go to Pershing Square with a bag of birdseed to feed the pigeons, hence the nickname Pigeon Goldie. She always had a bag of birdseed. Always. She always carried a bag of birdseed. And she also always wore a Dodgers cap. So she was definitely like a character of downtown.
Yeah, recognizable.
Yeah, and she was super popular with the people of downtown. Like everybody loved her. And this was what she did every day. I don't know if she worked, like I said, like it was hard to tell, but she always found time to go to Pershing Square. So Pershing Square is like a park in the middle of downtown. And it's again gone through a lot of different, you know, changes over the years. But like I've been to like festivals. There was a huge pillow fight that they hosted there that I went to. That was super fun.
Nice.
Yeah,
they have Day of the Dead stuff there too.
They do. Yeah, they do now. Grand Park does as well. There's a couple cool parks downtown that do things more now. Anyway, so she did this every day, and then she'd feed the pigeons, talk to everybody. Everybody loved her. She was everybody's friend. There's like a downtown scene. When I lived downtown, there were like downtown characters, like people that were like regulars. And definitely in the 50s and 60s, that was true too. So on the evening of June 4th, 1964, Goldie fed the pigeons, went back to her room. Less than 1 hour later, her body was discovered by a man selling phone books. Goldie had been strangled with one of the towels from the room. She had also been badly beaten and raped. And people were like, dude, we saw her like less than an hour ago. How the fuck did this happen so quickly?
Wow.
A 29-year-old who was later found roaming the streets covered in blood, like right after the attack, was arrested, but then they ruled him out, which totally tracks for downtown LA. Like, he could have absolutely killed someone else at that same time on that same day, and had it not been because downtown was like that.
It's wild.
Yeah. So despite another woman having been murdered in a very similar way, also in a hotel not long before Goldie, no suspect was ever found for either murder. Her murder made the paper. She was so beloved. People went down, and like, this was not a rich community of people, but they all spent money and like put flowers and continued to feed the birds in Pershing Square for her for a very long time. You know, she was really beloved, so this was super upsetting, but it's really nice that people like maintained the space for her and continued to feed the birds. From there, things settled down a bit. I think there were only 2 deaths from people falling out of the building between the mid 70s to the early 90s. However, lots of other things went down during this time. First, and most notably, in the 1980s and specifically 1985, Mr. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, lived in the Cecil Hotel on the 14th floor, where he paid $14 a night for his room.
Wow.
Yeah. He lived there during like most of his murders, and he would come back to the hotel covered in blood, discard his clothing behind the building.
Oh my God.
Up the stairs. Yeah. He'd walk the 14 flights, still covered in blood, barefoot in only his underwear. And nobody fucking cared. And
how do you keep getting new clothes every day? That's expensive.
God knows. I mean, if you're paying only $14 a night for a room in 1985, I guess you can afford it.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. I never thought about that. Like, what does he do after he's done horrific murders?
Also might just like pick him back up out of the alley and like put him back on. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a man who lived there at the time said he never went higher than the 6th floor because the higher floors were full of murderers. Obviously true. They would rob people. He was like, they'd throw them out of the windows, which like, there's not a lot of that happening, but you get the idea. Like, it wasn't a safe place. So another serial killer who stayed in the Cecil, apparently because he heard that Richard Ramirez stayed there, was Jack Unterweger. And he's a piece of shit. This motherfucker lived there in 1991 while murdering women in the sex trade. If you don't know his story, it's actually quite interesting. He went to prison in Austria for murdering a woman by strangling her to death with her own bra. While in prison, he wrote a book about like his life. He was a high functioning like narcissist, manipulative psycho. And this book made him famous. And as we all know, if you're famous, that means that you're a good person and you're better than everybody else. So Austria granted him parole, and he came to America and he killed 3 women while he was staying at the hospital. This was after killing 7 in Austria just after his release, because he was released in 1990, killed 7 women in Austria, and then by 1991 was already in America and killed 3 women in the sex trade. So
That's
he wasted no time.
None.
And you know what he did? He strangled them all to death with their own bras and underwear.
Very specific MO. Yeah.
He had a particular knot that he liked to tie around their necks and let them die. So really fucked. He actually went on the run for a while through Switzerland and France with his then girlfriend, who like, girl, get a better boyfriend. But he was caught in Miami, Florida in 1992 and was sentenced to life and killed himself in prison just after being caught.
Okay.
So while there weren't murders like in the Cecil around these times, like in the 80s and 90s, there were murderers in the Cecil.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Killing people and then coming back to their room.
Yeah.
So the second to last death to have taken place in the Cecil Hotel, well, on it, is that of Elisa Lam.
Yep.
Elisa Lam is by far the most famous case associated with the hotel, so it may disappoint you all that I'm not really going to talk about it that much. Like I said, you can watch the Netflix. It's been done. It's been done. I don't want to say done to death. That feels bad thing to say, but like, it's been done. So I'll give a quick summary, but so Elisa Lam was visiting LA from Canada in 2013. She was traveling by herself and for whatever reason decided to stay at the Cecil. So again, I lived there in like 2009 and 2010, and I'll talk about what it kind of looked like and why I think she may have stayed there. But they were basically trying to become like a cool downtown spot, you know?
Yeah.
And Elisa bought into it, obviously having no clue where she was fucking actually staying.
Yeah.
So she checked in the hotel either on the 26th or 28th of January, so right around my birthday in 2013, right around my 30th birthday.
Nice.
And on February 19th, residents, because people did and still do live there full time, like I said, as well as guests, began complaining of low water pressure, as well as a really bad taste to their water. So gross. A maintenance man was sent to the roof to check on the water tanks because the building had water tanks that supplied water. And inside one of them was the nude, decomposing body of Elisa Lam.
Which is just by itself, that part is so gross that they were drinking the water.
They were drinking decomposed body water.
Yes.
So the top of the tank was on correctly and nobody could figure out how she ended up in there. They're like, how the fuck did this tiny little girl climb up into there and then close the lid?
Yeah.
So police were like, this could definitely be a murder. They began investigating. The main thing they found that everybody knows about is the elevator video. So Elisa's in the elevator. She presses all the buttons on the side and like kind of bends over staring at it weirdly and then starts like looking out the elevator like somebody's coming for her.
It's very creepy.
It's creepy. She gets out of the elevator. She walks in this weird square pattern. Then she disappears. And the weird thing is the whole time the elevator door stays open. And then after she disappears, it takes about a minute and it tries to close. Then it opens again.
Okay.
Then it closes. Then the video's done. But the whole time she's doing these weird dances and looking in and out, it doesn't even try to close. And that I think is the thing that freaks people out because they're like, why wouldn't the elevator try to close during this whole time? Something supernatural is going on, right?
Yeah. So like it looks like she's talking to someone or gesturing to someone.
Yes. So this was taken exactly because they're not maybe actually there. So the video was taken January 21st and her body was found on the January 31st, sorry, and her body was found on the 19th. So she was in that tank for 3 weeks, just about.
Wow.
And people were bathing in, cooking with, and drinking that water the entire time.
God.
So her autopsy, it's disgusting.
There's some lawsuits there.
Yeah. Her autopsy was inconclusive, which furthered the mystery. They couldn't figure out like what happened. I also heard that in the video you can see what might be another person's foot between the 226 and 228 mark. But to me, it's just her walking in like a weird square pattern and sort of contorting her body, which she was doing. You could, like she's contorting her hands and doing all this weird shit. So to me, like the way she was acting was really creepy, but also just her. So murder was basically ruled out, and eventually it was ruled to be an accidental death. Pretty recently, they were finally like, we think she had a mental break and just climbed in there.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree. So
well, I mean, the thing with that is like to recap, like just loosely, like the documentary that came out was really like a huge thing because it was the first time that people admitted that the fucking hatch was open.
Yeah.
And to me, that was huge because like the reason if the hatch was closed, to me, that's insane because this is a huge deep tank. You can't close it. Right. You know, and so that was always the biggest smoking gun. But when they admitted the hatch was open, I was like,
oh, the hatch was open and she just crawled right in. It's like, okay, so it wasn't actually
if
closed.
It was open, that's different, you know, and
it came out that it actually wasn't.
But even though it was probably a suicide, like it, you know, or accidental death during a psychotic break, like this is very, very, very spooky still to me because it's an insane way to do this. It's an insane thing to happen because she would have had to crawl out on this like really tiny fire escape staircase at the tippy top of the building. Like the way she would have had to get up there is scary, and then just it's all very like spooky. And one could still say that there's paranormal forces like in this cursed hotel at work and causing her psychotic break.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
But she also had a history of like not severe but potentially severe mental illness, and she had just stopped taking her medication. And as somebody with like people who do this in my family, the worst of it is right after they go off their meds because they have like a sort of like a whiplash effect where it's like going really smoothly and then their body is reacting to the loss of the medication. The mental illness kicks up. So to me, it was just mental illness and a very unfortunate end. She very easily could have just fallen off the building and then it would have never been the mystery it was. You know, had she slipped while climbing up to the top.
But the way she did it is insane.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. It is really gnarly.
Yeah, and I don't know that it was a suicide per se. It also could have
No,
been
I
like
don't
that
think
she
so.
thought she was exploring and she thought she was doing some cool thing and
Couldn't
being
get back
adventurous and couldn't get out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thought. And I feel
Yeah.
terrible for her that that's what happened. I do not believe it was a suicide. I think that she was just
Yeah.
not thinking clearly. And then hopefully, I mean, in my mind, the best thing would be that she didn't get scared because she was still not in her right mind. I would hate to think,
but it's still spooky as fuck.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Elisa. She's not the last one to die at the Cecil, though. 2 years later, in June 2015, a still unidentified man was found outside the hotel after either falling or jumping out of a window. We somehow know his age. They're like, he's 28, but unidentified. I'm like, the hell fuck do you know how old he is? Like,
weird. Yeah.
But anyway, so those are all the deaths. Now I want to talk a little bit about my experience with the Cecil.
Yeah.
So I used to live 2 buildings down, and the building in between was not a particularly large building. It was definitely the building where people landed, because it was like, my building was like, I lived on the 7th floor of the building where I lived, and there were like 2 or 3 floors above us, and then like a rooftop area.
Yeah.
And you could look down onto this building. It was probably like 4 stories maybe. And then next to it was the Cecil, which like shot way up over that.
Yeah.
So I would walk by the Cecil all the time. And for a while, they called it Stay on Main.
Yeah, that was like they're trying to rebrand it. You know?
Yeah, and they tried to make it look super modern. And the weirdest fucking thing they did, as like a publicity stunt, they made a couple rooms on the bottom floor. So you're just on Main Street, which, by the way, is like next to Skid Row, essentially kind of still Skid Row. Yeah. And Skid Row is like where all the homeless encampments are for people who aren't from LA. So it's kind of gnarly. And these rooms were glass. Like fully glass. You could see the bed, you could see the dresser, you could see everything. That? They would let people stay there for free if they were willing to be like hamsters in cages.
Ew.
Yeah, and this was like their big gimmick to get people to stay there, and people stayed there.
Oh,
I would walk by because my car was parked around the corner on Los Angeles Street. So I would like park my car at like 1 a.m.
Oh my God.
And walk home. It was insane. I never once got harassed, by the way. Not once. Yeah. See? And there were people on the street all day and night. Nobody messed with me ever. But I'd walk by and see people like asleep in their room. And I'm like, this is insane. There were no curtains.
That's so weird.
You had to be like a fish in a fishbowl. It was insane. How many more?
No, thank you. I'm not.
How many more animals am I going to compare these people to? Hamsters and fish. But like, so it was fucking weird. So eventually I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go in. And my God, the inside is beautiful. Everything is marble.
Yeah.
The whole bottom floor is marble. Beautiful desks.
Cool.
Like if you travel downtown, just looking at the buildings, all of them are gorgeous and amazing.
They are.
They're really great. This one is no exception. I went in, I order a coffee. It's the worst coffee of my life. I was just like, and it sucked because it was 2 doors down from my house. I'm like, oh, a cafe.
There's a little cafe.
Never again.
Yeah.
Never again. And this was like 2009. So there wasn't even anything particularly wrong with the water at that point that I knew of anyway. God knows.
Oh gosh.
If the hatch is open, maybe a bird fell in. Like, who knows?
But Elisa's stayed in the Stay on Main like phase of it, or like that's when she stayed
I
there?
don't know if it still was called Stay on Main at that point.
Yeah.
It's now called something else. And actually in 2014, it got bought by somebody else who, you told me this and then I read about it. Closed in 2017 for renovations. They want to add a rooftop pool, which like what the fuck? Like,
yes. So okay, I wasn't making that up.
No, you're right. It is happening. So people can go hang out where Elisa Lam met her fate, which is like insanely dark and twisted to me.
Yeah.
But they're essentially trying to do like make it like another standard hotel. Like the standard is again popular hotel. There was one on Sunset. There's one downtown. It's where all the cool kids go.
Yeah.
So yeah, people. It's just like money talks. People don't care. So as far as I know, the hotel's still shut down. I think COVID helped keep it closed. I will be interested to see what they do. But I feel like this place is fucking cursed, and there's like nothing you can do to make it work. It's
very, very cursed. Yeah.
Yeah. And my experience with downtown was this: they took all these old buildings. They basically tried to polish a turd. And the problem is that the buildings are gorgeous and beautiful, but downtown is just a seedy fucking place. And you cannot have successful, high-end luxury apartments half a block from the center of Skid Row, which is basically like one of the poorest and craziest areas in the country.
Yeah. And if they want it to be nice, quote unquote, or clean it up, quote unquote, which I hate that fucking phrase.
I fucking hate that phrase too.
because often clean it up means like kill all the poor people.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to actually be a nice or whatever clean place to live, then what the city of Los Angeles would have to do is give a fuck about poor people and homeless people and like house them and care for them, which they don't really seem like they want to do. So
they want to pretend because they just care about money.
Yeah.
They want to pretend that if you just throw a bunch of money into these buildings, that it's going to clean up the surrounding area. That's not how it works. But I'm really happy to see, at least with the Barclay and the Cecil, over and over, these really rich people are just throwing money into a fucking pit.
Yeah.
It makes me really happy. I hope they all went broke on these hotels.
All the developers. Yeah.
Yeah, because fuck y'all, all of you. And I personally think that when the Cecil reopens, everybody should make a conscious effort to not go there because turn it into low-income housing. Take all those people that are literally 1 block away on Skid Row and move them in there and fucking take care of them. Do you know how many people die in Skid Row every fucking year? It's obscene.
Lots.
It's obscene.
Yeah.
And we want to have these fucking ivory tower luxury hotels.
It's ridiculous.
Right next door and just pretend that this isn't happening. It is so fucking grotesque. It's so fucking dark.
Oh yeah. And also like just a separate issue too. Like I realized it's living in Koreatown that the city does not service all of the areas, like with say like trash service, for example, like evenly, and they give like the rich neighborhoods better services.
Yes.
And like I would literally walk the same block in Koreatown and be like, this trash, it says LA City Department of Sanitation on the side, right?
Yeah.
This trash can has not been emptied in a week. And it would just grow and grow and grow.
Yep.
And so like you also get this huge like mountain of trash, and the city, it's their job to come pick it up, and they just don't.
They just don't. They don't give a shit.
And then they'll stand back and be like, wow, these poor homeless people, they're really dirtying up the neighborhood. And I'm like, what if you picked up the trash?
Yeah, what if you did your fucking job? Like, I realize they're not paying taxes for you to come pick it up, but like, here's the thing. The homeless, we're getting off on a tangent. We'll stop, I swear.
It's inevitable. It's okay.
The homeless population in Los Angeles is no longer concentrated to downtown. It has grown everywhere. You drive anywhere near a freeway, there is a large homeless encampment, a large established homeless encampment.
The Democratic, quote unquote, like government is also doing right as we speak these like passes through different neighborhoods where they're making it illegal to be on this or that sidewalk. And right now in my neighborhood, there's these horrible signs up that are like, it's going to be illegal to be homeless on this block, so get the fuck out. And like, you know, it's like really scary shit that's happening right now.
Yeah, this is the neoliberal answer to everything, and this is why we need
just shuffle them out of the way.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a fucking joke, and the more people wake up and understand what's going on, the better off we'll be. We need better social programs, and we need people to give a fuck. Like, yeah. Anyway, eat the rich. Ooh, that might be incitement. Eat all billionaires. There we go. That's better.
Okay.
I'll edit out the part where I said KILL. Just in case somebody does it and tries to blame me. I'm not trying to end up in prison. So,
that's a good point.
All right. That's our tangent. These hotels are fucked, but they're also, I think, at least in the ones that I did, they are representative of the disease of large cities and capitalism. So there you have it.
Yeah.
All right.
And even the Luxor is from part 1 too is in a way because it's like the construction workers from them trying to build it too quickly to save money are the people who cursed it. Yeah.
Yep. I just realized I didn't pick anything for next week.
Oh.
What are we going to do?
Let's have a quick conference and you can pretend like you already knew.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the next topic, we just had a little conference here. Since it's going to be the first week of Halloween, I feel like we can start really turning up the Halloween theme. So
you mean the fourth week of Halloween?
The first week of October, I should say. The fourth week of Halloween. Obviously. I think we can really, turn it up. So I think what I want to do is costumed killers. So there are killers that wear masks, and we can do a couple of those if we want. But I really want to try to find ones that went over and above with their costuming, with trying to like disguise themselves. I think this could be a really entertaining topic. I think we maybe covered one of them that I'm thinking about that I'd like to do, but I might want to just do it again. Anyway, so that's what I want to do. I think it's gonna be a really fun topic. And that's what we'll do. So, all right.
And just say a prayer for my Wi-Fi in my hotel in Amsterdam. And hopefully I'm not haunted, and hopefully my Wi-Fi is great. So.
Yes. If it's not, then we'll save this topic for when she gets back, and I will do a couple solo episodes, but hopefully that won't be the case. We'll know soon. Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening. We love you. Thanks for supporting us. You guys are spreading the word, which is fucking amazing. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Keep it up. Keep it up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I guess that's all we have to say, right?
Yeah.
All right. So until the next one,
stay
off our list.